Coig. We will start proceedings off with Ceoltóirí na Sláine with the Paddy Berry Suite, composed and directed by Michael Rooney. Bula Bosla, Michael Rooney. The past never wholly dies, but lives on, buried in the minds of men and the landscapes they have fashioned. Journeying through the threshold of the history of Wexford town, we begin by saying that our town was founded by the Vikings in about 800 AD when they first settled here. The streets layout can be attributed to these early settlers.
Through the pages of history, through heroic literary and bardic texts which survive from the 8th century, the arrival of the Normans and Old English, the painful arrival of Cromwell and the ensuing plantations, we read about our bards, our minstrels, our ancient sports and pastimes. The pulse of our nation's re-emergence with the United Irish Movement of 1798, the cultural renaissance of post-famine Ireland, witnessed the reawakened of a downtrodden people. The colourful tapestry of our ancient culture and heritage ensured and nurtured a political generation intent on achieving independence and taking our place among the nations of the world. At the opening of the Fleadh Cheoil na Héireann, the accolades of our troubled past in the Paddy Berry Suite, composed by Michael Rooney and performed by Ceoltóirí na Sláine. Let's enjoy the sheer vitality, exuberance and compelling beauty, the Paddy Berry Suite.
So, Pyramid Culture, Corkle a Gorman in you, August Meeting Eishtach Leshon Ceol Alin of Ceoltóirí na Sláine, Comaha, August Juraha, Egg Michael Rooney.
County Wexford is a strong and vibrant element of our culture. Wexford is one of the strong bastions of traditional singing on the island. Songs of the sea, of the land, of nature, of love and hate, immigration, sport, of shipwrecks and disasters, of people and places abound in this county. Likewise, the songs of 1798 are an integral part of our rich and varied songscape. We acknowledge the work which Paddy Berry, Gravelock Gorman, Coltori Aaron has done in this field. In his 3 songbook publications, Paddy has rescued from oblivion over 500 Wexford ballads. He is a true keeper of the tradition. We now will hear an old Wexford song, The Bantry Girls' Lament for Johnny, sung by Aoife Banville of Gravelock Gorman and Roisin Wall of Banno Coltis.
Fields now, and who will sow the corn, and who will watch the sheep now, and keep them neatly shorn. This dark that's in the high guard, unthrashed it may remain. Since Johnny, lovely Johnny, went to fight the King of Spain, the girls from the Barnoak in sorrow may retire, and the piper and his bellows go home and blow the fire. Since Johnny, lovely Johnny, is sailing o'er the main, along with other patriots to fight the King of Spain. should not permit our Johnny to return. His old loss, we voluntary girls will never cease to mourn. We resign ourselves to our sorrows and dying breed. Since Johnny died in the forehead of steel.
Movement number 3, the famine and the aristocracy. Over 1 million people died in the Great Famine, while thousands more were dispossessed and displaced. For the most part, silence followed this dark period of our history, and those who suffered the torment of hunger and the indignity of death by starvation in a largely undocumented manner have been forgotten. We remember those who died behind the workhouse walls and buried in lime-lined mass graves. For those who perished by the roadside or in fields and ditches, there is little which bear witness to their scattering. The Great Famine is an emotive narrative and lends itself to an artistic response against this backdrop.
Savannah. Our people left the shores of Wexford Town and New Ross in the mid-1840s to seek a better life in Savannah. While there, they prospered and became pillars of society, but still harboured a love for the old country and continued with their Irish customs and traditions. As we near the 170th anniversary of Dunbrody ship's first voyage from New Ross to Savannah, we feel the presence of the many hundreds of Wexford emigrants now resting in Savannah's sandy soil, with many grave headstones in the cemetery inscribed, "Born in Wexford, Ireland." Savannah is the oldest city in the US state of Georgia. Its St. Patrick's Day parade, America's second largest, is over 200 years old. Affectionately known as the hostess city, Savannah might, just as rightly, be called America's most Wexford city. Today, the historic bond is vibrantly renewed. Savannah-based Georgia Southern University has a campus now here in Wexford Town. Recently, Wexford became the first Irish county to be honoured by a proclamation from Georgia's House of Representatives. What began as timber commerce and emigration has grown into enduring friendship, a shared story still being written on both sides of the Atlantic. has a long history of maritime endeavour, from fishing vessels to cargo ships, passenger and emigrant ships, slavey cots and gabbards. Wexford's love affair with the sea is comprehensive and centuries old. The ports of Wexford, Rosslare, New Ross, Kilmore Quay, Carn and Duncannon have played and continue to play a vital role in the economic and commercial life of our county. Historically, the coast of Wexford was significant as the channel was a shipping graveyard. Father Ransom's songs of Wexford's coast from 1948 testifies to a rich maritime tradition.
Yeah, don't be seeing it. Take care.
I know that.